What if the pursuit of beauty and pleasure could destroy your soul? What if every immoral act, every indulgence, every corrupted choice didn't leave a mark on your face, but on a hidden canvas, silently decaying as your true self rotted from within? This is the haunting premise of The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde, a novel that forces us to confront the tension between the aestheticism and morality, art and life, pleasure and consequence. Today we are diving into this timeless work of literature to explore its philosophical depths and why it still resonates so strongly today. This video is also a part of our 2025 reading challenge. Check out the launch video to know more about this challenge. And at the end of this video, I will reveal our reading for March. So stay tuned. Oscar Wilde wrote The Picture of Dorian Gray during the height of the Victorian era, a period marked by strict social codes, moral rigidity, and a deep suspicion of art that existed purely for beauty's sake. Wilde, a leading figure of the aesthetic movement, championed the idea that art should be appreciated for its beauty alone, without needing to serve a moral or didactic purpose. Yet in Dorian Gray, Wilde paradoxically explores the dark consequences of living solely for beauty and pleasure, suggesting that art and life may not be so easily separated. Wilde himself faced immense criticism upon the novel's release. Many viewed the work as scandalous and immoral, a reflection of Wilde's own subversive lifestyle. But Wilde famously defended the novel in his preface, writing, "There is no such thing as a moral or an immoral book. Books are well written or badly written. That is all." This tension between art's autonomy and its impact on human behavior is at the core of the novel's enduring philosophical relevance. Wilde's writing is lush, decadent, and dripping with wit. His dialogue, particularly through Lord Henry, sparkles with aphorisms that cut to the core of societal hypocrisy and human desire. At the same time, Wilde's prose is deeply poetic, elevating even the most grotesque moments of Dorian's corruption into something almost sublime. This blend of beauty and horror, elegance and decay, mirrors the novel's thematic preoccupations and cements it as a literary masterpiece. Published in 1890, The Picture of Dorian Gray follows a young man named Dorian, whose portrait is painted by the artist Basil Hallward. Dorian, profoundly influenced by the hedonistic Lord Henry Wotton, becomes obsessed with the idea of preserving his youthful beauty at any cost. In a moment of despair, he wishes that the painting would age and decay in his place, allowing him to live a life of indulgence without consequence. To his horror, or perhaps his delight, the wish comes true. As Dorian sinks deeper into corruption, the portrait bears the marks of moral degradation, growing more grotesque with each sinful act, while Dorian himself remains physically untouched by time. The novel culminates in a desperate act of self-destruction. Unable to escape the weight of his own guilt, Dorian stabs the portrait, inadvertently himself. His body is found, wrinkled and withered, while the painting returns to its original, pristine form. But this novel is rich in philosophical themes, and in this section I will present some of them that caught my attention during reading. The main topic of the novel is of course hedonism and the pursuit of pleasure. Lord Henry Wotton serves as a representation of hedonism in this novel. He preaches that the highest good in life is the pursuit of beauty and sensual pleasure. But Dorian's descent into moral depravity suggests that unchecked indulgence leads to spiritual decay. The novel forces us to ask, can a life dedicated to pleasure ever truly be fulfilling? Or does the constant chase for gratification inevitably hollow us out? Of course, in philosophy, we have different forms of hedonism. Even in the antiquity, this philosophy was very diverse. Because yes, there were people claiming that hedonism is the pursuit of only sensual pleasures. But we also had, for example, Epicureanism, which is a very intellectualized form of hedonism. One that actually advocates work and becoming the best version of yourself, as is the only way of achieving the best form of pleasure. So perhaps hedonism wasn't the problem, but this particular form of hedonism was the problem. So focusing on only sensual and not so great premises and not maximizing your potential, which at the end could lead to a greater pleasure. A different aspect of the novel is the nature of the soul and the self. The portrait functions as a literal representation of Dorian's soul, visualizing his internal corruption. Wilde invites us to ponder the relationship between our inner selves and outward appearances. In a world obsessed with surface-level beauty, how do we reconcile the parts of ourselves that are hidden from view? Are we, like Dorian, capable of living with the burden of our true nature if no one else can see it? Because what kind of self we are hiding usually? Is the worst kind of ourselves? So our portrait, which is hidden, is much more uglier than us? Or perhaps are we hiding our true self, which is better what we create on the outside? Because, for example, we are afraid to reveal our true self. And of course, we could here talk about metaphysics, but I don't think it was a relevant topic in the novel. Art as a mirror. Wilde's exploration of art's power goes beyond mere aesthetics. The portrait doesn't just reflect Dorian's sins, it amplifies them, serving as an unavoidable confrontation with the consequences of his choices. Art, in this sense, becomes a moral compass, even as Wilde claims that art should be free from moral judgment. This paradox suggests that while art might not dictate morality, it can reveal uncomfortable truths about human nature. Now let's dig deeper into what makes this novel so philosophically rich. You see, Wilde was a passionate advocate of aestheticism, that art should exist only for beauty's sake, not to teach moral lessons. And this was pretty revolutionary in the Victorian England, because everything from art to personal behavior was tightly controlled by strict moral codes. Not only in England and not only in the Victorian era, of course. In general, societal norms were much more strict in the past. But here is where it gets really interesting. Dorian Gray isn't just a celebration of aestheticism. It's also a warning about it, because Dorian fully embraces Lord Henry's philosophy that pleasure is everything and morality is just a social construct. But where does this lead him? Into a pit of depravity and self-destruction. So Wilde is actually playing with this fascinating contradiction, and I believe he was fully aware of it. Victorian society valued outward respectability above all else, and Dorian maintains that perfect facade. Meanwhile, his true self, represented by the portrait, rots away in secret. It's like Wilde is asking us, what good is perfect beauty if your soul is corrupted beyond recognition? There's another layer to this story that speaks to us today. Dorian isn't just indulging in vices, he's living completely outside societal norms, and for that he pays a terrible price. And this resonates deeply with Wilde's experience. As an openly gay man in Victorian England, he knew firsthand what it meant to live authentically in a world that demanded conformity. The backlash against those who refused to follow the rules isn't just disapproval, it's often active persecution. When someone rejects conventional morality, like Dorian does, they force everyone else to question their own beliefs. If someone can live differently and at the same time finds happiness and meaning, what does that say about the rules that we have all agreed to follow? This kind of threat to the societal order often leads to the marginalization of the nonconformists, and we see this pattern repeated throughout the history and sadly even today. And lastly, let's also talk about the portrait itself. It's not just a supernatural plot device, it's also a powerful metaphor on how do we construct our own identities. In many ways, Dorian's relationship with the portrait reflects our today's relationship with, for example, social media. We present perfectly curated versions of ourselves on social media, while at the same time hiding our flaws and struggles. And Dorian takes this to the extreme, maintaining a perfect exterior while externalizing all his sins onto the canvas. The portrait becomes Dorian's suppressed conscience made visible. It's the truth he can't bear to face. And isn't that something we all struggle with? The gap between who we appear to be and who we really are. What makes this novel so enduring is how it exposes the masks we all wear. It asks us, if there were no consequences for our actions, would we behave differently? And when we choose to conform to social expectations, is it because we truly believe in them, or just because we fear being cast out? Okay, so that was our reading for February. It's a book that lingers in your mind long after you turn the last page, challenging to reflect on your own self-image, on your own values, and the price of vanity. And for March, we'll be reading George Orwell's 1984. As you happened to guess really quickly again. It's a stark departure from Wilde's lush aestheticism, but no less philosophically rich. Orwell's dystopian vision explores themes of surveillance, truth, and the manipulation of reality, offering a chilling meditation on power and human freedom. And of course, now it's time for revealing a hint for April. It's a psychological exploration of guilt and redemption, centered around a person that commits unspeakable crime and wrestles with the consequences of those actions. I'm sure you know the author of the novel, because he's one of the most known novelists in the world. Okay, let me know your guesses in the comments. And don't forget to share your thoughts about the Picture of Dorian Gray. Did Dorian deserve his fate? Were his premises rational, or maybe he was just delusional? Is beauty worth the costs of soul? Righty. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, don't forget to give me a like and a subscription if you want to see more videos like this in the future. If you're new to the challenge and you want to join, don't hesitate. We still have 10 books to go. Okay, thank you once again, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye.